a little longer than expected. So this afternoon we're going to rig the 3/4 view of Karl. That's this puppet here that we're looking at right now. I'm just going to turn my microphone back off. So I'm having a little bit of problem with my sound still. When people were watching the stream, they couldn't hear Karl talking. But when I watched the VOD over, I could hear Karl talking. So I might not do any animating today until I fix my sound issues. But yeah, let's go in and take a peek at our artwork for Karl. So off screen, I got him all lined up. So his arm sets should be made, his brow sets are made, his forearms should be on the correct layer, and his hands should all be facing the correct way. There's a few like potentially the self-gesturing hands that I'll go back in and change, but we can go straight to rigging today. So that's really nice. So the first thing I'm going to do is import the artwork. So that's Karl Mauve 3/4, and let's go rigging. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is import, or sorry, name all my behaviors. So on this level here, top level, we're going to find face and call that torso. We're going to find our first dragger and name it right hand. We're going to add another dragger, and we're going to call that one left hand. I just put an R in front so they're side by side on the timeline, just to have it. Okay, and in that face behavior, or which is now called torso, I'm going to turn down my head position strength to 0 so it stays on the neck, and head scale strength to 0 so that if I lean forward in the if I lean forward in the camera, the head doesn't get gigantic. It's always going to stay the same size. Okay, then I'm going to add limb IK so that the arms and legs move correctly, and I'm going to add auto blink so it doesn't depend on my blinks in the camera. Auto blink I'm going to leave at the default settings. Okay, so in Karl front, we want front tagged as front and also as a head. We want head tagged as head, and we also want to add face behavior. And I'm going to zoom in a bit, and we're going to attach that at our correct pivot point. Okay, on head level, I'm going to find face behavior, and in that one I'm also going to set head position strength to 0 and head scale strength to 0 for the same reason. Okay, dare I rig the desk? I had sort of success this morning. The desk is always hard for me. Okay, so on the parent layer, I want my origin point low and approximately where I want it to pivot from. On the name layer, I want my line, my stick tool, and here's the important step that I forgot this morning. That has to be labeled as fixed. And I want the origin point, that's this one, above the fixed line. Then I'm going to go into my desk's layer that is independent, and I'm going to attach it below the fixed line. Okay, so in theory, desk is now rigged. So the first thing, you can do it in any order that you want. If you want to build your swap sets first, or if you want to do your rigging first. Let's do rigging first. So I'm gonna rig up my left arm. You're probably, if you've done any character animator, this is pretty self-explanatory. I'm not using body tracking behavior. You may, if you're doing that, you'd want your left shoulder tagged on your body layer, I believe, not your arm layer like I'm doing here. I haven't studied body tracking much because I haven't really had call to use it yet. But it's a a cool new feature. Oops. Okay, everything's jaggable. We'll go to our right arm and rig up our skeleton. Oops. Okay, we'll do our legs. And I never have to put fixed points on mine, and I think it's because I've got limb IK and that has ground detection, so he sticks to the ground automatically. I saw a post earlier today where someone was having a problem with their puppet floating. Hopefully I gave the correct advice. If not, I highly recommend OK Samurai tutorials. I watched a ton of his tutorials when I was learning, and in fact I still do, just to refresh myself. Okay, and these hips, his legs aren't going to move in this scene. I'm putting them in because I have limb IK applied, and it's going to be looking for these tags. Arguably, I could save myself a little bit of time and put limb IK and apply it only. You can do like arm IK or limb IK, so that's arms and legs or just arms. But I think it's a good habit to rig these this way. Okay, so I think that's all rigged up, so we should be able to create our swap sets now. So just so I don't forget any, I normally start from the top down. So browse is my first swap set. Just for ease of myself, I by default make it 1 and latch it. Okay, and then head is done because he doesn't have any fancy rigging. We may have to go in later and make a mask for his left eye, or yeah, his left eye, so that it doesn't go sliding off. We'll just have to check that. Okay, so now comes the more complicated swap sets. We're going to start with left arm. So first we're going to drag in our left forearms. We're going to set our default, and I'm going to pick 3 and make it P. And then I'm going to make our hands. So I'll pull in my first example. I'm going to rename it left hands. I'll open all my other hand sets. Okay, and default hand currently is only in the default arm set, so I'm going to want to add that into the swap set just by dropping it in, and it'll populate. Okay, so now I'll twirl open all my hand sets. And I've got 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm just holding down Control if you don't know how to select those one at a time. Alright, so that should be left arm done. Let's do the same for our right arm. So I'm going to make my right arm swap sets. I'm going to double click on default to make it the default. I'm going to pick 3 and I'll make it A and latch. And then we'll do our right hands. Drop in a hands folder, rename it as right hands. So you don't have to rename these, but when you're working on the timeline, if you don't have them labeled as right and left, you will cry about it. Words of experience here. And then I remember that default hand is only in the default set, so I'm just going to drop those in, and then I'll twirl open all the rest here. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 05. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And open flat, our last one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, oops. Don't talk and work. All right, right hand swap set should be done. Okay, so if we did everything correctly and it went nice and smooth because we didn't have to go back into AI very much this time around, we should be good to go. So when I pull it in, I'm expecting to see the head wiggle at the neck. I'm expecting to see movement in the torso and no movement in the desk. So let's cross everything. Yay. Okay, so he's not pivoting where I expected him to. So let's go see if that's going to break. So let's go back to fit. And that's this pivot, this body pivot. So I'm just going to move that over to where I want it to pivot. And let's see if I broke anything. He seems to be stuck there. What's going on there? Oh, he's actually pivoting off this head. So this also has to be below the fixed line. Let's see if that fixed up. It's still a little bit high. So see, he seems to be... Let's see if we can get a nicer pivot than that by adjusting a few things. So I'm going to move this fixed point down a little. So I think I put all my stuff that has to be below down there. So let's see if that... It's not super perfect. Let's move it down even more. That's quite a bit better. And I'm just going to turn down on the torso. We'll turn down his movement to around 30. Still looks a little... I'm going to try and move that down even more. I'm scared to break it though because we're getting into danger territory there. Yeah, so he does work as expected. Okay, so let's go in. I can see on my swap sets, I don't have my correct default set on the hands, so I'm going to twirl open right hand swap set and just double click on what you want your default to be. So right hand we want default, and left hand we want as default. The other thing we're going to do, we'll go back into rig mode, and we like our left and right arms instead of weld. I'm going to put them on hinge. I think he moves a little more naturally behind the desk with hinge. All right, so we're ready to test out, did we get our forearms put in correctly in the artwork? Oh, we have one more thing to do. So I was just testing his surprised brows there. So surprised, we thought it was too big of a leap, so we like to go up by 2 frames in that instead of going straight to surprised. So we've got our 2, oh, okay, so that's not set up quite right. So surprised, when I open it up, I'm expecting to see the same right and left eyebrow, right and left eyebrow. So when I open this up, I should see right and left eyebrow, and inside I should see 1 and 2. So I see I've got all the artwork, it's just not quite set up correctly. So let's go back into AI, and we'll go into browse. Looks like I did correct that and I just forgot to save. Oh no, I just forgot to name them correctly. So this is his, so plus right eyebrow, and this is plus left brow. Okay, and then we'll save our changes to populate in Animator. Okay, yeah, so now you can see we've got frame 1 and 2, frame 1 and 2. So I'm just going to select left and right eyebrow, and I'll add cycle layers. And down here we want it to advance to the next frame every 2 frames. We want to do it forward and backward, and we want to hold on the last layer. So now when we go in and we hit our surprised, oh, look how easily you can, like, why would that have broken the puppet? See how it broke the puppet? Just by making that cycle layers. I don't understand. Something must have moved. Okay, so let's start from scratch again. The parent layer, the origin is at 0. The named level, and that is tagged as fixed. Well, I'm not sure what broke our puppet there. Yeah, that is the fun thing about Character Animator, isn't it? So we did have that working. We farted around with everything. I'm going to fix that off screen because I'm not quite sure what broke there. Let's work on his... Oh, that's just going to drive me crazy. Desks. The non-moving desks is trickier than it looks. Okay, so my origin point... that is where it's supposed to be. On my named level, yes, I don't know why that broke, you guys. I'll have to go back and watch my stream and see. I must have shifted something. So doing cycle layers should not break your puppet like that normally at all. so desks is independent, yes. Attach it below the fixed point. Origin is below the fixed point on the named layer. I'm going to fix that off screen. I don't understand what broke there. That is the joys of Character Animator. When it doesn't work, sometimes it's really baffling. Let's carry on and check if we got our forearms anyway. So I'm going to arm triggers. I'm going to put one of each example on, and I'm going to do surprised. So because nothing activated, so open gesture on left hand, I always make L and latch, and right hand, I want open gesture as Z and latched. All right, so let's do that again. A, Z, 1, P, and L. So yay, I think we got that correctly. So as soon as I fix the desk moving, oh, let's do it correctly. Control 2. You have your 2-frame take. So we'll arm everything again and hit Control 2. And now everything is on our timeline. We've got a 2-frame take. I'll just select it all and pull it out. To our new Character Animator in your silly moving desks. Control Shift D to break up your biseams like that. So arms are working as expected. I'm going to add the default hand, I think, to oh, that is the one and default hand are the same. So can I get away with just doing there. So that works as expected. What a drag that the desk had to go and break. Oh, there's a few. So this one will work when he's, let's turn off trigger so we can see our work. So side open, let's go in and turn that one right away. So that's his right arm. I'm working on his wrong arm, but this one will also need can be changed as well. So that one we're gonna want like that, and open self we're gonna want like that as well. Oops. And then in his left arm, we'll do the same drill. On 1, let's go into isolation mode. And open self, we're going to rotate. Okay, so now when we use those hands, they're going to be at the right spot, because we'd only use those here. Nice. I'm going to have to work on where my draggers are. But that works as expected. Okay, so let's go to 5. Some of these hands we'll never use out there, so let's go open palm. So not bad. 5 is going to be too big again, so let's end on 4, which is also going to be too big, so we're going to end on 3. And that looks really good. Let's try open gesture. Looks good. Side open will be backwards for us. He's not going to use that one. Open flat. Oh, open up. Okay, so that's his left hand. So here, I'm not certain if you're aware of that, but here you can see what's in the swap set. So you can see we've got open self in there somehow by accident. So I'm just going to hit X and delete open self. So that's default. Oh, I see what I did. Be very careful when you're creating your swap set. So you can see I've got open up, open self, open up, open self. So when I was creating open up and open self, I just dropped the wrong stuff in. So let's go back in and fix that. It's worth seeing it to be careful. So that was right arm and right hands. Okay, so I'm going to go into open up and I'm just going to delete open self, open self, open self, open self, open self. Okay, so open up should be displaying correctly. Now when I go into open self, you can see it's empty. And if we look on the side here, okay, so 1 is in there because that was our sample. So 2, 3, 4, 5 default, and 05 when we open them up, open self shouldn't have, oh it does, you know what, let's just redo our left hand. I'm just not paying attention enough to what I'm doing today to be streaming. Streaming is hard. Talking out loud while you're working, I thought, oh, I'll just be talking to myself, but it is really distracting. Okay, so the first problem is I was in left arm instead of right arm. So let's go into left forearms. Now when we open up hands, those should all be in there because that was the example one. If we're in the correct hands, yes, you can see open self does not have, oops, open self doesn't have anything, so you can see it's not in a swap set. It gets confusing with all these hands and arms, definitely. But it's nice to know how to find your mistake. So if you're not sure if it's in what's in the swap set, you can click on it down here and it'll tell you what's in the swap set. So they're all open up, open up, open up. And open self currently only has 1 forearm. So I'm just going to select all the missing ones and drop them in again very carefully. Let's open self and I'll drop them in open self, and you can see it populate down here. Now when we go back into record, everything should be displaying correctly. Nice. So if you see 2 displaying in your swap set and you don't want it to, that is why. Nice. Okay, so left forearm is working as expected. Let's check out our right forearm. So that one we're going to go to 05. excellent, also works as expected. I went in and lined them up earlier, so let's make sure that we've got our hands at the right spot. Right, so that one we're going to want to do okay, so we don't have default on 05, so his right hand 05, we're going to go back in and add that. So let's go back to in here, we want to go to right arm, 05 hands, and we want to add in a default hand. Okay, and then we'll add it to our swap set. So in Character Animator, we're going to go back into rig mode again. We'll just wait for it to populate the changes. Streaming is really, really hard. Hey, Sandy. I got flustered. I had the desk working all great, and then I went in and did cycle frames on the eyebrows, and I broke the desk, and I have no idea why, and now I'm really embarrassed again, so it's gotten me flustered a little bit. Okay, so let's add the default hand. That's his. Oh, come on, Animator. Maybe Character Animator is also a little bit flustered. Okay, so that was Karl's right arm. '05, we added the default hand, so let's make sure we add it to the right one. So in right hands, we're going to go in, you can see it doesn't have that, it's not part of a swap set, and we'll drop it into default. Okay, so hand should work as expected now. We'll just have to remember that when we're dropping in our, go in and line that up. And these we can turn at any time. We didn't lose any of our rigging because we didn't rename anything, but sometimes renaming stuff can actually break your swap sets. So I think I'm gonna do the same thing, and I'm gonna add an extra donut hand also with default. So we're gonna have to add that to the swap set as well. Otherwise we'll have an empty frame. But I think if we go donut shape with default hand, then the gesture, and then open will be a nicer look. So let's go add that in. So we'll just add a copy by holding down Alt. See, and it's not putting in default copy today. I don't know why. Sometimes it decides to put in copy, sometimes not. It's really quite frustrating. Okay, and we'll save that. Oh, let's make sure that we don't have anything hidden. I spent quite a bit of time wondering, why isn't it showing in the swap set? Why? And it was actually hidden in Animator. Okay, so once it's incorporated, we'll go back into rig mode, and that was in 01, and that was right hands as well. So you can see default when we go, it doesn't have the little hand with the button, so we'll just drop it in. Okay, so I'm going to save these. Now, how much do I want to embarrass myself? When I turned torso back on, his desk wasn't moving, or is moving, so I guess it's worth troubleshooting on screen, because it's a really frustrating chronic error. So the other thing I thought of is that maybe my legs, let's just troll these closed properly, maybe the legs, so the hips might be a little bit too high. So let's just make sure that those are nice and low to the body, still attached. And did that help it? No. See how it's moving with the head? So there's something. That is correct according to my notes. Let's just move this above just in case. I don't think that's the issue, but if it, no. Okay, so that's where he pivots. So we definitely want that there. And then the last thing to check is the desk. So I want my origin below the fixed line, and it worked. So why? On the name level, yeah, last time I had just forgotten to name that, put that fix, you know, let's just delete that, put in the fixed stick again. Maybe it's some weird bug where it's just not registering that fixed, because it was registering it, it worked, and then all of a sudden it broke. So that is not the problem. I guess I'll have to watch my stream again and figure out what I did. Let's move that origin point above and see if that's fixed it. No, and I know that's definitely correct. That origin point needs to be below. There we go. Oh my goodness, you guys. Okay, so on the body layer, this has to be above the fixed line as well. See, I must have just gotten lucky on the last one that it was above the fixed line, and I didn't realize that impacted. So that did, it was worth, you just want to check those origin points are, what I can't figure out is how putting cycle layers in broke that. So yeah, a testament to how delicate the puppets are. So I can't think of anything else that we want to do on this puppet. I am having that sound issue, so when I watched the VOD over, I could hear Karl talking, but apparently when you're listening on the stream, you couldn't hear Karl talking. So I'm just going to test it again and fart around with some of the volumes and see if maybe I just had my volume set too low. So can you hear this stream?
Karl, when you give...
And let's just check my levels that I've got stuff set loud enough.
Karl, when you give some...
Can't hear it at all. Well, I don't understand. Yeah, I guess if when I might hold off on doing any animating, because I think it's kind of important to hear that. I could take out my headphones again, but I found when I rewatched a VOD that the computer portion, like Karl speaking, was incredibly loud, and I'm already pretty mumbly. So yeah, this puppet, again, as usual, just the desks were the issue. So now, say I was gonna go in and animate. Let's say I was ready, or actually let's put his background in so we can see how that's gonna look. So assets, let's pull in Karl front and put that on the very bottom and put this to fit. So this is how Karl's gonna look in the main scene. So to change him, I'm gonna select the Karl puppet again, and we'll go to transform, and here's where we're gonna scale him. So probably at least 200%, if not more. Yeah, maybe 250. And now let's see with his background in. Okay, so because I like this and I know that when I use this puppet, he's always going to be in front of this background and this size, I'm going to remember to puppet track behaviors. I'm just going to click that and that'll push that to the base puppet. So from now on, when I pull this puppet in, he's going to be in the right spot. So that's the Karl front background, not the shared one. You need the Karl. Oh! Thank goodness you're watching, Sandy. Karl front. Yes, exactly. That's the wrong background. Oh, thank you, Sandy. So Karl and James is what we actually want. This is how he's going to be. Woo. The desk has sent me for a loop there. I'm still completely flustered by that. Okay, so we're going to select the puppet again. Luckily, it's around the same size. Oops. And I'm just going to slide him over. Oh, jeez. I'm just going to slide him over to the right spot here. Okay, and now we like where he is. So now I'll push track puppet behaviors. So from now on, when I pull him in, he'll be in the right size and the right spot. And now let's see how his forearms work now that we know how the scene is kind of set up. Let's switch that to one that's actually going to be used. Okay, so that's on forearm 3. So I'm a little nervous that once they're all animated up, let's turn everything off so we can see our triggers. And if they happen to be gesturing at the same time, they're going to be holding hands. So let's actually shrink that down and see. It looks a little more natural. Are we going to get any movement? Yeah, we have quite a bit of movement in the bicep. And then they're pretty close together. What we may do, because we have quite a bit of background, is just pull out a little bit more and move them both over. So say we get everything animated up and it's just too tight. When the puppet leans forward, they're touching hands. Because we're animating the scenes, all we'd have to do is just adjust in the transform, and we don't lose any of our animation. That's like one nice thing about Animator. Okay, and then again on here, 5 is going to be far too long, so let's get rid of 5 out of that set, and let's actually get rid of 4 out of that set. So that's ending on 3. Again, off screen, but it moves really nice. Ooh, it's just started pelting with rain out here. We had a tornado warning the other day and now pelting with rain. But his arm moves pretty good. Let's see if we just end on 2. See, he looks a little tight there. So I'm going to leave that ending on 3. I'm going to be aware that it's off screen, but worst case scenario, like I'll still put his hand in, but we will pull back a little. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. So that was Adventures in Rigging today. What we could do actually is pull in the actual puppets and see how they interact together. So I worked on James Blue R earlier this morning. So I'm just going to pull, oops, instead of pulling in the scene, I'm just going to pull in that puppet. And he's going to be in the right spot. So this is what they're going to look like together. Actually, if I pull in his scene, we'll see how his arms work. So that's James Blue R. There, so that's how they're going to look when they're animated together. They look a little bit maybe like they're gonna, like, I'll have to be careful when I'm doing the torso take. That looks awesome. Oh, thanks, Andy. It's really nice to see it all come together. Like when you start farting around and putting the hands in an animator, you just think, man, how is this gonna work all together? So let's take out the Karl and James background, because that's a little, oops, that's a little, oh, it's because it's in the James scene. So let's go back into the James scene actually, so we can see exactly how it's going to look, and take out that invisible background. And you can see I cut off a portion of his desk already. I did that off screen. So let's go back to there. So that's how they'll look both together. And if so we won't be able to activate James in this scene because it's the animated scene, but we can activate Karl and see how Karl will be. He's looking really good. Oh yeah, did we do a lip sync pass on Karl 3/4? No, we didn't. So I can see a few things that I've forgotten. All right, so let's go back to work instead of geeking out. So we'll just delete the James scene. So Karl, we didn't do a testing of the lip sync. So you can see I've forgotten to make his jaw flappy. So we're gonna go back into rig mode. We'll go into head and we'll find face base. It's already independent. Let's zoom in so we can see what we're doing here. And here's another one that I sometimes forget to tag as fixed. So the top jaw goes in, top stick goes in and its tag is fixed. The bottom stick goes in straight if you can, and that's tagged as jaw. And we can adjust the flappiness.
Karl.
Oh, don't forget to run the actual lip sync pass. Okay, so we'll do that by going on timeline. And this is another one we might have to adjust the jaws manually. I saw a few there that looked like his jaw was hitting the desk. All right, so let's take a listen.
Karl, when you give someone feedback, what are you really...
Okay, so...
Karl, when you give someone feedback...
I wonder why only on A it's like that. Like, that is astonishing to me. All the others aren't bad. And then you get to A, and it is just unreal. Okay, so then in lip sync, we'll go to manual jaw adjustment. We'll find A. Turn off my microphone there. We'll find A and adjust that. Everything else looked pretty good. Yeah, it'll be kind of boring to watch. So what I would do is go in and adjust so you can see S. This is his default, so S needs to be adjusted down a little bit. No, down a little bit, no, up a little bit. So that's 2. And then I don't know how exciting that is to watch. I do love that feature, though. It's kind of a hidden feature. I used Character Animator, I said that earlier today, quite a long time before I even knew that that existed. I had just never noticed that there was a twirler there. Lip sync looks pretty good now.
What are you really trying to do?
I'm trying to let him know what I think about him, I guess.
So
Why?
At this stage, I'd normally be ready to animate. I've got Karl in three-quarter view. I've got Karl in front view. I've got James in front view. And I've got James in three-quarter view. So there may be some more farting around with like cutting of the desks and everything, but we are basically ready to animate. I'm not going to animate on stream, I don't think, until I get the sound file's working. But so in theory, if I was ready to go, what I would do is I'd just slide these all the way to the end of my sound file, because I'm going to be using them later. Zoom, all the way to the end. And I'd start off with my nice fresh scene, and I go through, we'll do an eyebrows pass, so I'd say he's going surprised here, he's going surprised here. Then I'll go through and do an arms pass, say he's doing side open and then open flat, and then I'd put in my forearms like so, so he'll he'll move like, of course I pick one that's not a great one, he'll move like that. So yeah, I will definitely be doing some animating this evening though, so if you're interested, sub to the channel and you'll get a notification when I go live. If you are interested but you're not interested in subbing, I am putting all the VODs on YouTube, so if you missed, one advantage if you watch live, you can ask me questions and watch me sweat when I yeah, so I'll take a break, but we'll be doing some animating this evening if I get my sound issues sorted out. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Bye.